This episode is proudly supported by Pepe Sayer Australian Cultured Butter, batch churned from single origin cream.
Like any good product, you have to start off with an amazing cream. Like for us, it's the raw material that matters. So where we get our cream from matters a lot. So we can't just buy your average supermarket grade cream. So you need real cream. You need basically the stuff they skim off the top of milk at a farm. And to get that product, we have to go to the farmers direct. So for us, we have to source our cream very carefully. We travel a lot to different farms to make sure that the cream we're getting is the real deal from different areas of Australia.
For more information, go to pepesayer.com.au.
We hope that in the years to come that there's more people who are, focusing on and using native Australian ingredients and doing it in a way that is respectful. And I just think the best way to move forward with that is to learn from Indigenous communities and be respectful and, support their businesses.
Today on Dirty Linen, we are catching up with somebody that we perhaps don't hear much about in the eastern states of Australia, but I reckon he's doing some of the most incredible food events and engagement with produce that is going around. Paul Iskov runs Fervor, and it is an absolute thrill to catch up with him today. How are you doing, Paul?
Good morning, Dani. Very well, thank you.
So good to have you on the show. Now, for someone who's never heard of Fervor, how would you describe it?
I would describe Fervor as a pop-up roaming restaurant. We have a focus on native Australian ingredients, and it's a very intimate dining experience, which is unique each time we do an event. You might find us on the beach or in the forest, somewhere out on a salt lake. So majority of our Fervor events are outside, outdoors or under the stars.
Love it. And I've got to get to one of these days. To just take us there, give us a couple of examples of events that really stand out in your mind.
Yeah, so we've been going for 10 years now. So there's been so many different events, mainly throughout Western Australia, but interstate and international as well. Some of the early events were quite unique and interesting. Places like the Pinnacle Desert, Valley of the Giants treetop dinner, where we actually, had our tables set up in the canopy of the trees, probably about 50 metres up. Another one that comes to mind was the Breaksea Island down in the Great Southern. Just off Albany, we actually held an event where guests were able to hop into a helicopter, have a scenic flight over to the island, and then were treated to 18 courses or 18 sort of standing canapes. But we've been lucky to do events throughout, and I think one that really stands out to us would be up in Kakadu. We were able to do an event at Koongarra, which is this really beautiful location on Jeffrey Lee's country. So Jeffrey Lee is an elder from up there, and he allowed us to do a dinner at Koongarra, which had been, I guess, closed off to the public for nearly 20 years and was a really important art site. And over the few days leading up to that event, we got to spend time on country with our good friend Ben Tyler and the ladies. So we were out collecting lots of different yams and tubers, different roots, seeds and grains. And this event up at Koongarra with Jeffrey Lee was it was such a special event, so much energy there. Jeffrey was there to welcome all the guests, and we had a smoking ceremony, and there was a lot of his family and community from Kakadu there, along with guests who'd come to join us for the dinner. But it was just a really special event and something that really stands out in, our memory.
It just sounds absolutely incredible. I mean, you're on country a lot. I mean, I guess we're always all on country all the time. Tell us about the way that you engage with Aboriginal people.
Yeah, so a big part of what we do at Fervor is spending time on country and learning from the traditional custodians. So we don't have a bricks and mortar restaurant, and therefore we are travelling a lot. So there's so many different regions in Western Australia, and whenever we go to a different region or new town, new area, we try and connect with the traditional custodians before each event. And a lot of the time that's spending a day out on country, going out to collect ingredients. But, sometimes those ingredients aren't always there, or the season isn't fantastic. So the really important part for us is to learn about the country that we're standing on and listen to the stories, from these elders, because for us that gives us a sense of place and an understanding of where we are, and also a deeper respect for that location.
And Paul, what are some of the ingredients that you've encountered on these journeys? What are some of the ingredients, flavours, and the dishes that you've created from them that really stand out in your mind?
Gee, we're so lucky in Western Australia. It's such a big state and really diverse. I guess a few of the ingredients that represent Western Australia really well, or I think do anyway, are things like yolk, kulyu, and bloodroot. We have these incredible honey ants from the goldfields as well that are like some of the best honey or nectar that you've ever tasted. And these ingredients are super delicious and really special, but I think a lot of the time it's actually the process of harvesting or collecting these ingredients that is really, really special as well. For instance, with the honey ants, we're able to go out with the ladies in the goldfields. A lot of the time there's other family members there, so some of the younger family members who are coming out to learn from the ladies and speak in language, and they get down and start digging in the hole. And to dig for honey ants is a day-long process. Out in the sun, it's really hot, and these ladies keep digging and digging. And then all of a sudden you find these beautiful little honey ants. You hit a little pocket, and this hole that you're digging for these honey ants can sometimes be, almost waist or chest deep. So much work goes into collecting these honey ants, and when you finally see them and dig them out and you have that first taste, it's a really special experience. And I think being able to do that, go out on country and learn and see the process of collecting these ingredients gives us a deeper respect for those ingredients and also for the land that we're standing on. So, there's so many instances like that. We have kangaroo and emu, crocodile, so a lot of unique protein that are all really healthy for us. Things like the bloodroot represent the Great Southern and Southwest region of Western Australia. And the bloodroot it's a relative of the kangaroo paw. So when you dig down about a foot, you get this beautiful bulb, and you brush the sand off and cut into it, and you see this bright red, redder than the brightest chili. And this root, when you first taste it, it's spicy, it's chili, and it just has this impact of a unique flavour and a unique look to it as well. So there's so many different ingredients in Western Australia that we love to play with.
I think Kulyu was one of the ones that you mentioned. So that's a tuber, isn't it?
Yeah, the Kulyu is like a tuber. You do spend a lot of time digging down to get the Kulyu, and depending on how big it is, the flavour will change. Some people call it the native sweet potato, but the Kulyu it's quite an interesting ingredient. When you roast it on the coals or in a pan, it almost, as it caramelizes, it's almost like a nashi pear crossed with a potato, but it has this beautiful, crisp, crunchy texture to it. And Kulyu is found, sort of in quite a wide region of Western Australia. Very, very delicious.
I just feel like what you do must be so endlessly interesting. You must always be learning, and the connections, just sound really meaningful that you're making with the place you live and places you visit. I mean, what took you to create and cook like this?
Yeah, I guess cooking for me, I fell into cooking through surfing at about the age of 19 or 20. So in my early days, I wasn't all that interested in cooking. I just wanted to surf. And the reason that I fell into cooking was I got to cook at night, and which freed me up to go surfing during the days. And a lot of the, early days of my surfing was around forests, and there was always a walk into a beach or a location. So we were always walking past these beach herbs and tubers and seeds, and within a few years of my apprenticeship, I was really interested in the native Australian ingredients, and we were lucky enough to use some of those in different restaurants. But it was only sort of scratching the surface, just sort of your more common ingredients like wattle seed and pepperberry and lemon myrtle. And then over the years, we started using more ingredients, but I was just puzzled in why there was only a handful or so ingredients that were commonly used in restaurants or even in home cooking. So for me, it just became one of those things that I wanted to learn more about. I wanted to know why, we weren't using all these different ingredients. There's thousands of native Australian ingredients out there. And when I came back from around the world trip, I travelled in 2012 and got to visit a lot of different restaurants around the world. When I came back, the plan was to solely focus on native Australian ingredients. And I guess Fervor began with just a simple pop-up in an outdoor open air sort of barn. And we thought we'd test the waters, see what people thought. And I guess 10 years later, we're still continuing to do pop-ups. And the reason that we're still doing that is it gives us the opportunity to travel to different regions. We get to see beautiful parts of Western Australia. We get to spend time out on country and meet new people and learn about new ingredients. So for us, we're really lucky to sort of travel with the seasons and just continue to learn as we go.
When you travelled, Paul, you did work at some pretty incredible restaurants. So Koi with Daniel Patterson in California and Pujol in Mexico City and Dom with Alex Atala. Like, did you see a different sort of engagement with native ingredients at some of those restaurants?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, they were, hugely inspirational for us at Fervor. I think that they were really engaging with local community and going out and foraging with them. They were also very respectful of the ingredients. Alex Atala was a huge influence on the way that he approached ingredients that they hadn't been used all that often in restaurants before, and how he engaged with people in the Amazon and Indigenous people from throughout it. For me, I was just like, wow, this is incredible. Why aren't we doing more of this back home in Australia? But yeah, I think that for us from the very beginning, it was clear what we wanted to do and get out there and learn about these native Australian ingredients. But it came so quickly after we started Fervor that to do that, we really needed to learn more about Aboriginal culture, the country that we stand on, and have a deep respect for that.
I mean, I can see how enriching and fun and engaging and just all-consuming this work must be for you personally. But do you have a project? Like, is there a sort of, are you trying to really create change in the broader community with the work that you do?
I think for us, one of the main things that we hope to achieve when people come to a dinner is, number one, we want to create something that's unique and memorable and, different. It's something that you can't recreate again. But we really encourage all our guests to spend time on country and seek out cultural tours. And, when they want to learn more about these ingredients, we've made so many great friends over the years in different parts of Western Australia. So we encourage them to support their businesses. I think that in the years to come, we really want to see people using these native Australian ingredients at home in your everyday cooking. And to do that, I think it's really important to support, Aboriginal businesses and businesses that are supporting Aboriginal communities. So for us, we want to make it as accessible as possible for people and let them know that these ingredients are not only super delicious, they're really healthy for us, but they're also, very approachable as well.
When you talk about putting tables up in treetops and things like that, there must be a lot of challenges that you encounter. What are some of the particularly perhaps difficult moments that you've had with getting Fervor events up and running?
Yeah, each week is a different location and a new pop-up. So much goes on behind the scenes. Majority of the work that goes into a Fervor event is, the logistics and the paperwork and the organisation, and that's before we even, get to the food. If we're doing a Fervor dinner, it's normally, 14 to 16 different bites of food or different courses. So we have over 400 things on our checklist or things to do, and majority of that is logistics and organisation before getting to a location. When you're 80 kilometres from the closest town and you've forgot a block of butter, there's sort of no turning back. So you need to be really organised. And we also just need to be prepared for whatever's thrown our way. Weather is one of those things that we're always, keeping our eye on and trying to make sure that we've picked a great location. We've been caught out a few times. Wind is always a tricky one for us, and there has been instances where we've been caught in the rain towards end of dinners, but I think that's the beauty of it. Each event is different and unique, and it's one of those beautiful things where you can be sitting out next to a rocky granite outcrop, and one of the first courses is a quandong dish, and then you can look over and 20 metres from the table there's a quandong tree with all this beautiful fruit on it. So there's that real connection to the country that we're standing on and the food that we're serving. So for us, it's, although there's huge challenges, it's unique and keeps us on our toes each event.
And I mean, do you have Fervor fans that just come back again and again, or do you find that it's usually people that are encountering what you do for the first time?
We have people who have been coming since the very first year, which is fantastic to see. Whenever we go back to the same town, so say Muckenbuden out in the Wheatbelt is a place that we've been going for 10 years now, and it's the same community that come back to each dinner. And for that, it just means, we have so much support from them, and we want to give them something different and unique each time. So we make sure that the menu's different and the location's different, so that they're getting a different experience at each dinner. And we've really found that over the years, now we have people travelling to different locations. So people are willing to drive from Perth out to Muckenbuden or up to the Pilbara or even the Kimberley to experience something different and sort of get away for a weekend and get out and about.
Yeah, I feel like if I was in WA, I'd just plan my life around your events, because I'm sure I would discover, new flavours, new places, meet great people. I'm sure the events just attract the best people. Do you ever find that people don't quite get what you do? Like, are there some misunderstandings that you strike over and again?
I think potentially before people have come to an event, they don't really understand how complex it is and how much goes into each event. It's a real, I guess, it's a different experience in sitting down in a restaurant, because each location is different and each menu is different. It's constantly evolving and changing. So when people actually come to a Fervor dinner and sit down and get to experience it, I think, a lot of the time they walk away with a different, they walk away with a different picture of what Fervor is. So it's really, I guess, I don't know. I think you need to come along to a Fervor dinner to really experience it and understand the story that we're trying to tell.
Well, I reckon you're doing a great job of explaining it to us in words. What about transformations in the lives of people that you work with? Like, I just imagine there just must be some incredible life pivots that people have been able to take through what you do.
Yeah, I mean, we're really lucky that we have an incredible team, and we want to give back to the team, and also the people that we collaborate with and work with over the years. So for us, being able to go to a new location and introduce our team to community and get them out on country to learn and connect, that's really important to us. And we hope that in the years to come that there's more people who are focusing on and using native Australian ingredients and doing it in a way that is respectful. And we hope that there's guests who come to dinners who enjoy these ingredients and want to just head home and cook with all these beautiful different flavours. And I just think the best way to move forward with that is to learn from Indigenous communities and be respectful and, support their businesses.
I mean, you've spoken a bit about, the access, that you're digging for a day to find the honey ants and, certain people need to be doing that. You can't just start digging a hole any which way. I mean, access and continuity of supply is something that chefs often talk about when, they express a willingness or a desire to use Indigenous ingredients, but it's just can be hard to fit them into menus. Do you have any advice for people who, would love to explore this space more?
Yeah, and you're so right in saying that the supply and demand is a very tricky one. I think, as chefs, we just need to be understanding of the seasons and, as an ingredient sort of is coming to the end of the season or the supply is finishing, we need to be able to go, all right, well, I understand that we've got limited amount, we're gonna change a dish. And that's easy for me to say because we're cooking for, 40 people and the menu changes each weekend. So we're able to utilise small quantities of these ingredients. But when it comes to larger restaurants and people doing huge covers, it does become tricky. So I think it's a matter of sort of working with some of those ingredients that are more available, and then with some of the more unique ingredients and things that only have a smaller supply, it's just using them sparingly or being, I guess, open to putting on a dish for a shorter amount of time. I think that, as we move forward, the more demand for these ingredients, I think we're going to see the supply getting better. There's a lot of communities that are going out and wild harvesting, but there's also communities that are actually growing and farming on a small scale, which I think is fantastic for some of these communities. And if we can support them and just be okay with when a product or ingredient is coming to the end of the season, I think that's just something that we need to keep in mind.
Yeah, and I guess, as you mentioned, it's really important to look for Aboriginal-owned businesses that are supplying these ingredients, and that's going to be different in different parts of the country. But, it's certainly a massive issue when we start looking into this space.
Yeah, definitely. I think for us in Western Australia, we're really lucky with how many Indigenous-owned businesses there are, and there's a lot of businesses out there who are really supporting Aboriginal communities and working with them. So it's just about seeking those out, and you're gonna support them, and in turn, there's going to be a better supply down the track of these ingredients.
So, Paul, I'm not coming to a Fervor event in the next few weeks, but if I was, and I'm just going to imagine that is true, what would you feed me? What's coming up?
Oh, so we're down in the Great Southern in Albany next week, and we're lucky enough to do an event with Kuramia. and Auntie Venice and Larry are elders from down in Albany on Manang country, and we're doing a lunch with them at the Albany fish traps. So the fish traps are over 6,000 years old, and they're down near Oyster Harbour. So along that sort of stretch, there's a lot of river and coastal herbs. So I guess your things like samphire and sea celery and saltbush. But we're going to be using things like the bloodroot that I talked about earlier, and the yolk, which is another tuber, almost like a radish carrot kind of flavour and texture. We always use yonga or kangaroo for our main course. So, yeah, kangaroo is something that I think is really underutilised in Australia. And, you know, we do a lot of ferments as well. So something like the wattle seed and seaweed miso with that kangaroo. And whenever we've got kangaroo on, we have our wattle seed damper, our smoked butter, which we smoke with sandalwood, and then our slippery jack and wattle seed fervor mite to go with that as well, along with a range of other ingredients. But yeah, I think that's something that really stands out for us is the kangaroo and damper as a main.
Oh, that just sounds so good. You really took me there. I think you're right about kangaroo, and it is becoming a bit more accessible. It is possible for wild harvested kangaroo to be served in more places or supplied in more places around the country these days. For chefs who are thinking that, actually they should have some roux on the menu, what are some good preparations, cuts, dishes to start with?
I mean, we always love the tail. Kangaroo tail braised is to die for, especially coming into winter and the colder months. We also, I guess, majority of the time are using the kangaroo fillet and sort of cooking that. If you're lucky enough to have a little char grill or an open fire, it just works so well over the charcoal, and you get that smokiness into it. But there's a lot of different cuts. We've been using the kangaroo shoulder. We use the kangaroo spines for all our stocks, but also the meat on there is beautiful to use in a ragu or pick down into, I guess you could use it for little canapes and things like that. But yeah, I think, you know, kangaroo is extremely healthy for us. It's in abundance, and when cooked well, it's super delicious.
Yeah, awesome. Wow, you've sold me, and I don't reckon I've ever had kangaroo shoulder and never thought to use spine. So that is really, that's great. Super. Yeah, it's so exciting. Paul, always so great to catch up and hear what you're doing. I just got to get there, right? It's got to happen. You just got to come over and visit and experience it all. Yeah, absolutely. So does everybody who's listening to this. Thank you so much for making the time to have a chat. It's really just a pleasure, and congratulations on everything you're up to.
Thanks, Dani. Great to chat.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinenat deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.